Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Overtime. I'm Nicole Dubé, joined by Ted Wyman, sports editor for the Winnipeg Sun. All right, let's get right into it, Ted. It's the All-Star break, and no Jets playing in the All-Star game.
Well, that's a fact. Dustin Byfuglien was invited to the
Right.
All-Star game, but he's injured and is not able to play. Truth is, the Jets have the 76th leading scorer in the National Hockey League as their leading scorer in Blake Wheeler, so it's not a huge surprise that there's nobody going to this All-Star game from the regular team. It's kind of unfortunate, in my opinion, that there's no Winnipeg Jets. They're such a feel-good story this season. You know, they came back, and it's been years and years since Winnipeg fans probably could have had even remote interest in the All-Star game. And this year they don't really either, because there's no Winnipeg Jets in the All-Star game. And that is unfortunate, I think, but you can't really fault the NHL for taking better players. The Jets just haven't had the numbers to support it.
I know. Okay, I want to look back almost roughly a month ago from where we are now. And we were talking about a much more positive Winnipeg Jets team than the team that's now on break, weren't we?
Yeah, no question, Nicole. The Jets had a terrific December, and it looked like that was a team that was contending for the playoffs. And really, you know, they played so well on home ice that it just seemed like this was a team that was building up to something really good. January started, and it all went in the tank. It's been an extremely bad month for the Jets. They started out with losses in Montreal and Toronto, the bad losses, you know, which was a bad sign, because then it is all snowballed from there. And it hasn't only been on the road. They've lost some games at home as well. They just can't score goals right now, Nicole.
That was my question.
Yeah, well, you know, Evander Kane's out of the lineup. He's their leading goal scorer. You know, Dustin Byfuglien creates so much offense from the defense, and they miss that because he got that huge shot, and this team is designed to funnel the shots back to the point and give these guys a chance to just fire away. And you take that out of the game, and it really affects them. They're just not the same team without those guys. And right now, they never were a great scoring team. But right now they can't score at all. The New York Rangers proved on Tuesday night that if you shut that team down, they've really got nothing.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no player really even nearing the 20-goal mark.
Well, Evander Kane has got 18 goals, so he is nearing it, but he hasn't scored He hasn't scored this year. The last time he scored was against the Los Angeles Kings just before the New Year's Eve, and he's now injured. He's got a concussion, and I mean that's terrible news for the Jets. They need that guy to be on the ice and scoring for them because they just don't have that kind of balance. There's nobody in the bottom six forwards that scores at all. All their production comes from the top six forwards, and right now those guys are hurting. So I hope that this team can come around. And Claude Noel's plan is always to have them be a better checking team, and they do a good job of that. They have played well, in fact, the last few games. Their effort has been excellent, and you have to give them a lot of credit for that. But if you can't put the puck in the net, you just can't win in these tough games at this time of year.
And the other thing we have to mention is injuries.
Yeah, of course. That's been a big part of it. You know, Tim Stapleton's out of the lineup. He's been a useful player for them. Evander Kane, Dustin Byfuglien. They've missed time from Blake Wheeler, Brian Little, Zach Bogosian, Tobias Enstrom, you name it. Other than the goalies, every part of this team has been affected by injuries this year. I imagine it happens with every team in the National Hockey League, but I think the Jets have had to deal with more than their fair share.
Well, hopefully after this All-Star break they can, pull themselves together and recover and get back out there.
Well, they do have
games.
They do have 14 of the last 23 games on home ice. They have an 8-game homestand in February. Obviously, that's going to be a time that they have a chance to make their move and try to get back into the top 8 in the playoff picture, but they can't lose sight of that playoff situation right now. They're now 5 points out. That's a big deficit to make up when there's games with shootouts happening every night and points being awarded in that fashion. So I don't see them having, it's going to be pretty hard for them to make it up if they don't do something before then. They've got big road games coming up right after the All-Star break. They've got to win a few of those games, or else I think it's going to be curtains on the playoff chances for the Winnipeg Jets.
I think you and I jinxed the Jets by talking playoffs in December.
Way too early. It was like saying shutout. You just can't say that.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that for this week. All right, thanks, Ted. I'm Nicole Dubé. That's it for Overtime.